My practice is largely based on kind of instinctive drawing and mark making. I consider it to be a little bit like self-administered art therapy, in that I'm using drawings to explore things that I can't necessarily verbalise. I like to work a lot on paper because it kind of has that. It's important to me as a material because it has that basis in early childhood and makes me feel kind of free in that way to just express. They kind of get there before it, and they also there's like a massive element of catharsis.
Yeah.
It's why I use paper all the time, because it feels much more like being a kid and drawing, and there's no emphasis on the kind of finished quality of the work, or there's not like pressure on the work when you've just got a pile of paper. You can just go through and put the drawings down. It's a challenge because obviously in the art world, having to reconcile what you're doing with the possibility of like trying to have a career as an artist or something, then there's all sorts of connotations about paper, which they're works on paper are quite popular at the minute, but they obviously don't kind of sell for as much and stuff like that. Whereas if I think of the most precious work I've done, it's probably even more than larger things. It's these ones when you're really not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because even on this, there is an element of pressure, or it's going to be on the wall. Whereas these, pile them up. They're the most intimate thing that I can kind of create in a way. So I think quite a lot of them at the minute have sort of elements of exploring kind of masculinity in things and lots of different circumstances and stuff like that. Men are such a sort of, or conventional ideas about masculinity and what men are a massively powerful thing in our world, obviously. I think, there's I have a lot of discomfort about being a man because of all the ideas that men, all the different things that men as a super entity like perpetrate and stuff like that. So I think there's a kind of tension about masculinity in the work. I think my use of the horns, I'm not entirely sure why they're there in all aspects, but I think there is an element of, if I look at like the works of Picasso or something, drawing all those bulls and the kind of ideas of virility and masculinity that he was interested in, I think in a much more self-aggrandizing way and not particularly self-conscious way. I'm kind of interested in using those sorts of tropes, and they just kind of emerge, I guess, because it's a subject that it's hard to have a clear single notion about, I guess. It's a kind of continuous stream, I guess. Since I've been here in this space, I've started to, this is the first time that I've done paper blue to fabric. And the idea was really only to upscale the drawings, like I wanted to just work bigger and kind of expand, but to try and keep that paperiness. I really like the way actually doing that has kind of made it look almost more papery, like all these different joins and the wrinkles. I really like that stuff. I'm almost tempted at the minute to make something like totally abstract, because when I prepare one of these pieces, I just love the so much. It's just such a lovely material, and I love these little bits in it. But I realised I've gone completely off the point. But yeah, basically it's kind of a stream of work, I guess. I don't think of it as now I'm doing a project with this or whatever. I think of it as just a continuous practice of making stuff, basically. If I'm working on the wall stood up, I think there's a different feeling personally producing the work to when I'm working like this, or even if I have a large thing and I'm lay out on the floor and do it. I think the smaller, or on this size, and this kind of working on this continuous size uniformly, I'm very connected because I don't feel any nerves in producing the work, so I think it probably accesses something pretty deep and unconscious, whereas I think there's an element when I'm working on a larger scale that I'm conscious of this as being something that I guess I intend to be displayed on some level, and I think that does have an impact. Yeah, actually, lockdown's been so long, it's really hard to think of the whole thing. When it first started, yeah, I went, because I was just in my house on my desk, I went to, just small A4 words on just like printing paper. And that is great, because that's like the ultimate, you're making something that is definitely just for yourself, and it's very small, and you have a great command of the space of the paper. And I think that brought me right back to the core thing that's important to me about my work, which is just that intimacy and that real direct, authentic engagement. So I think it probably has had a positive effect, to be honest, because it kind of gives you fewer options, it shrinks you down in a way. So I think that's been kind of good. But I am now delighted to have a proper space to actually do stuff in. Whilst it is obviously a choice to make art, it feels like something that is just quite necessary to my own well-being. So I guess, in moments of artistic crisis, there are lots of or when you're kind of looking at other people's work and you feel inadequate or whatever it is, I think the one thing I come back to is, my favourite thing is that I don't have much control over it ultimately, that it kind of, it dictates itself, and I might look at it one day and go, oh, this is rubbish, or I might look at it another day and go, I recognise that piece so strongly. But the fact that I can kind of and ah about, oh, what should I do, where should I take this, but it kind of takes itself somewhere. So that's my favourite thing about it, I think. My least favourite thing about it is that it's probably also that I can't control it in a way. It's probably one and the same.